So Ukrainian President Zelensky very kindly allowed Russia to have their Victory Day parade a few hours ago, but it wasn't seen that way by everyone. I mean, we had Russian mill blogger, two majors, saying that this announcement from Zelensky permitting Russia to hold the parade was, quote, a slap in the face. Now, we'll get into the backstory here in a second, but it's true. Yesterday afternoon, Zelensky issued a statement authorizing Russia to hold this parade. He said, quote, taking into account numerous requests for the humanitarian purpose outlined in negotiations with the American side on May 8th, I decide to allow a parade to be held in Moscow on May 9th. He said for the duration of the parade, the territorial square of Red Square will be excluded from the plan for the use of Ukrainian weapons. And then he gave the coordinates of this, quote, ceasefire. Now, there is actually a ceasefire in place, and more on that here in a second, but this was not exactly received well across Russia. And there's a lot of debate about what was going to happen for the May 9th parade. Two majors, Russian mill blogger said, quote, that bastard knows how to wage an information war. These are the consequences of Shoigu's lies, his arrested and convicted deputies, as well as the disgusting ossified information component of the state machine, which accompanies and organizes work in the information field when implementing the most important decisions. For such a slap in the face, a strike on Kyiv should be carried out right now. And there was a lot of debate leading up to this, whether or not Russia should or would actually hold this large Victory Day parade marking the end of World War II. President Trump just yesterday announced that there would be a 3-day ceasefire, May 9th, 10th, and 11th, adding to that there was an expectation of 1,000 prisoners being exchanged between Russia and Ukraine. That could mean, fingers crossed here, some of the Ukrainian prisoners being returned home have been in Russian captivity since 2022. So hopefully that prisoner exchange does take place. Now, the lead up to this saw a lot of concern inside of Russia, where people were wondering, should we actually hold this parade or not, this annual parade? We actually had a number of Russian mill bloggers saying it's not worth it because they said you're going to have to reallocate air defense assets to Moscow when they're already in short supply across the rest of the country. That would open up the possibility of Ukrainian strikes elsewhere. In fact, a couple different mill bloggers said you can protect Moscow, but that's going to leave other areas exposed much closer to the front. That seemed like the most likely scenario. And Ukraine was doing their part, trolling, kind of suggesting, maybe, we'll see, maybe something in that parade would be hit. Now, Russia took the precaution of making this pretty dialed down. I mean, it did play out, but my God. I mean, the aircraft flying over was like an AI video. I'll play some of it here. Like, what is that about? There was no tracked or like large military equipment for the first time in 19 years. And it was short. I mean, fast, in, out. The international delegation was very limited. Very few international observers came to participate in this event with and alongside Putin. Now, Russia did issue some warnings leading up to this. You could tell that this was the priority and the focus was making sure this parade went off without a hitch. Again, crazy. Here we are in year 4 of the war, and so much attention is being paid just to make sure this one good-looking parade goes off well. Russia issued a warning when there started to be indications that Ukraine might strike the Kremlin during this parade. They issued a warning. They said, "Hey, everybody, diplomats, exit Kyiv, because if they attack the Red Square, no joke, we're not messing around. We're going to hit the decision-making centers." Again, Russian mill bloggers just joked at this and laughed at this, and they said, really? That's the thing? That's the line? Is if they disrupt our parade, we're actually going to try to win this war? Zelensky responded to this a couple days ago by saying, quote, they want permission from Ukraine to hold their parade, to safely march onto the square once a year and then continue to kill our people and wage war. We've also received requests from some countries close to Russia that their representatives plan to be in Moscow, a strange desire these days. We don't recommend it. And it was all of those kind of veiled threats that no doubt led to a significant toning down of the Victory Day parade. And there's a couple different ways to look at this. One, yes, all of Moscow is within range of Ukrainian drones. And we've got some deep strikes happening inside of Mariupol. We'll play here in a second to give you an idea of the extended range of Ukrainian strike munitions. But Ukraine has hit targets well east of Moscow. That's not an issue. Moscow is very heavily guarded with air defense assets. And as we've talked about in recent videos, there's a finite number of those. Russia is a massive country, and every single night that Ukraine launches drones, they are testing out Russian air defenses to find out where are the gaps, where are the holes, where is the area that when we fly low, they don't see us, or we fly high, they don't see us. All of that is being gathered and analyzed every single day. So one of the questions here was, if Moscow is going to have added protection, what areas around the country, or even in occupied portions of Ukraine, would become vulnerable? And the answer was a lot. I mean, they've already got a lot of vulnerability right now, but the parade went on, albeit again without any large equipment. Russian mill blogger Romanov, not super optimistic with how things are heading right now. He said, quote, "Happy Victory Day. The great victory is the result of an uncompromising, without backroom deals and truces, fight against fascism by our grandfathers and great-grandfathers. In the current war, we should not expect a similar victory. Our grandfathers and great-grandfathers left us a military legacy, which we are now exhausting." He says, "For the unwillingness and inability to win now, our next generation will pay a heavy price. But for those that are now attending the Victory Day parade, this doesn't matter, at least for now." Again, pretty pessimistic. And another one of the takes that we saw from a number of channels inside of Russia was the thought and the concern and the focus of making sure this parade went off without a hitch, when there are cities and refineries and bases all around Russia that are on the constant receiving end of Ukrainian drone strikes day in and day out. And those citizens saying, really? Like, the red line to cross is hitting the parade, but TWOPs down in southern Russia can just get hit day after day after day? It's certainly a choice. Now, this comes alongside, this kind of got buried, but yesterday, Azov carried out or released footage of a number of strikes being carried out in Mariupol. I'm going to play that footage here. Actually, before playing the footage, I'm going to pull up a map. I want to show you exactly where this is, because the location is really, really important. So, deep state map here. We've got the occupied portion of Ukraine here in red and kind of pink. Mariupol down here in the south. So the siege of Mariupol, awful event right at the beginning of the conflict. The Azovstal steel plant was here. We'll see that in the video, actually. But Mariupol, right on the coast of the Sea of Azov. So when you're looking at the distance and the range here, you got to keep in mind, we'll pull up a ruler from, we'll call it down in this area. You got 131 roughly kilometer distance. That generally means that Ukraine is going to be able to range anything in the occupied territory. So let's go ahead and play this clip released by Azov just yesterday. They said, quote, "Azov is returning to Mariupol, currently with the help of a reconnaissance strike complex. Pilots of the 1st National Guard Corps Azov are patrolling roads up to 160 kilometers from the front line of combat. The targets of the reconnaissance strike complex cameras are Mariupol and the occupiers' military objectives. The enemy is using Ukrainian roads in the city and its outskirts to move personnel and other military equipment. The 1st National Guard Corps continues to create a sanitary zone for Russian logistics. The depth of strikes will increase." They wrap up by saying Azov is already patrolling its native Mariupol, for now, from the sky, but more will follow. Now, the Russian response to this, of course, not super optimistic. Rybar said, quote, "The described air defense problems are evident. There are too many drones, and air defense systems lack sufficient ammunition. The only solution is adequate layered defenses with interceptor drones, a field still underdeveloped in Russia, air defense guns, aviation, and other components. It's important to understand one obvious thing. At the current pace, more strikes on Russian regions will follow. What worked over the past couple of years is no longer relevant, and without changes in air defense approaches, difficulties will only increase." That seems pretty evident at this point. Again, I think the focus right now in the first half of 2026 needs to be the degradation, the destruction of Russian air defense assets. Every one of those opens up another corridor. It's a snowball effect. Every one that is destroyed opens up more areas for Ukrainian drones to fly, and it is shocking that we are 4 years into this war. The Kremlin is worried about their Victory Day parade being interrupted by Ukrainian drones, because it can be. And we are watching clear middle-of-the-day footage of Ukrainian strike drones 130 kilometers behind the front line hitting Russian logistics in Mariupol. They're already targeting Donetsk city. Now they're hitting Mariupol. You can see the trend line of where this is going, and it's not just me observing it, it's the Russians as well. We are seeing more and more Russian commentators saying, hey, this is a problem. Our soldiers can't get to the front lines, and when they do, we can't keep them resupplied, and now our logistics are getting hit further and further back. And every single day, more Russian air defense systems go down. watch this trend in 2026 because it's on track to make a significant impact in this war. All right, and then last but certainly not least, owed you guys an update on the fundraiser. We hit our goal again. So the spring campaign blew past it as expected because you guys are incredible, and we were able to deliver 2 more trucks this last week. So that's 12 total deliveries since February. That's insane. And one of those trucks went to Seraphims, the unit we're supporting all year. The second truck went to Special Operations Forces. So I think 1st Battalion, 8th Regiment, SSO. They're already out there in use. So we've got a couple more campaigns with Car for Ukraine before the end of the year to fully outfit the Seraphims new drone battalion. We also, I'm excited to announce, we've got a collaboration, merch collaboration, where in my store, that link is in the description below. We've teamed up with Car for Ukraine to provide a shirt very similar to this one. It's this front design right here. And 100% of the proceeds go to Car for Ukraine. So they don't have merch and stuff available for sale. We got enough questions about this shirt specifically that we said, how about we host it and we'll do all the back end logistics, fulfillment, customer service, all of that. And then 100% of profits go to support Car for Ukraine. It's now live, so check that out. But that's all we got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.